Hello! Welcome to Teach Me Maths. My name's Jonathan Hicks and today we're multiplying fractions. Now there are 4 operations that you can do with most things in maths. You've got adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing. But it turns out that multiplying is the easiest thing you can do with fractions. Adding and subtracting is a little bit harder. So we're going to do multiplication first. Now before you can multiply fractions, you must know how to cancel or simplify fractions. So if you're not sure how to do that, go and watch the cancelling fractions video and then come back here. So we'll look at an example straight away. If we start with 2/3, we'll multiply that by 4/12. To multiply fractions, it's really easy. You just multiply the tops and you multiply the bottoms. That's really all there is to it. So 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 12 is 36. Great! Although, remember, if you ever give a fraction as an answer in maths, you must always cancel it down. So you're looking for a number that divides into 8 and 36. Well, 2 goes in, but if I could find a bigger number that goes into 8 and 36, I will save myself a bit of work here. I think 4 also goes in. Let's try it with 4. So 4's into 8 would go twice. 4's into 36, 4 9's are 36. So that's going to go in 9 times. Check, does anything else go in? Nope, so that's my final answer. So 2/3 times 4/12 will give me 2/9. However, there's a slightly easier way of doing this. Let me go back to the start. If I write out the question again, 2/3 times 4/12. The astute amongst you may have noticed that you could have actually cancelled the 4/12 down before you started. And in general, it's always easier to cancel at the start than it is at the end. So this 4/12, if we just look at that separately for a second, if you were to cancel this down, well, again, 2 goes into both of these, but so does 4, and you always want to divide by the biggest number you can. So 4's into 4 go once, 4's into 12 goes 3 times. So 4/12, this 4/12 here, we could cancel that down into a third. Now, you could rewrite it with a third there instead, but what people tend to do is they just cross out these numbers and they write what it cancels down to instead. So you'd say, how many times does 4 go into 4? That goes in once. How many times does 4 go into 12? That goes in 3 times. So they just cross them out and they write the new fraction above and below like that. So 4/12 has become 1/3, a third. Then you can do the multiplication. So 2 times 1 now on the top becomes 2, and 3 times 3 on the bottom becomes 9. So the final answer, just like we got before, is 2/9. But cancelling at the beginning here means you don't need to cancel at the end. And notice that the numbers we had to cancel here were bigger than the numbers we had to cancel here. Generally, if you cancel at the start, it's always easier than cancelling at the end. So I strongly recommend you cancel first. And in general, if you do all your cancelling at the start, you will never have to cancel at the end. All right, let's look at another example. Go to that one. So 6/8 times 7/9. How about that? So again, see if anything cancels. Well, the 6 and the 8, they're both even, so I could divide them both by 2. So 2's into 6 go 3 times, you knock that down to a 3, and 2's into 8, they go 4 times. So 6/8 has effectively become 3/4. 7/9 won't cancel, so now we multiply. 3 times 7 is 21. And 4 times 9 is 36. Although, this cancels. If you look at that carefully, you might see that 3 goes into both of those things. So 3's into 21 go 7 times, and 3's into 36 go 12 times. So this cancels down into our final answer of 7/12, because nothing else will go into 7 and 12. Hang on a second, didn't I say that if you did all your cancelling at the start, you would never have to cancel at the end? I did, but we didn't do all the cancelling at the start. Let me show you. So we had 6/8 times 7/9. We cancelled that down to 3/4, that's fine. But there's one little thing I didn't actually mention earlier, which is, as well as cancelling top to bottom, you are also allowed to cancel diagonally. So the 3 and the 9, if they cancel, you're allowed to cancel those. And the 7 and the 4, diagonally that way as well, you're allowed to cancel those. So as well as cancelling top to bottom, you can also cancel diagonally in either direction. If you really want to know why that is, I'll explain it at the end of the video. But for now, just take it as read. You can actually cancel anything on the top with anything on the bottom. So the 3 with the 4 or the 3 with the 9, or the 7 with the 4 or the 7 with the 9. The only thing you can't do is cancel side to side. You can't cancel tops or the bottom side to side. So anything on the top will cancel with anything on the bottom. So in this case, 3 and 9 would cancel because 3 goes into both of them. So 3's into 3 go once, 3's into 9 go 3 times. Now have a look, there's nothing else that will cancel. So we've got 1 times 7 gives you 7, and 4 times 3 gives you 12, which is our final answer, 7/12. So if you do all your cancelling at the start, you will never have to cancel at the end. But you need to be careful to make sure you do all of the cancelling, top to bottom and diagonally. All right, let's try another example. See if we can put all that together. So we'll have 13 over 6 times 9 over 26. Now, check if anything cancels first. Actually, perhaps to illustrate the point here, this will be a good one. Let's just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms, and then try cancelling at the end, and we'll see what happens. So 13 times 9 is 117, I think. And then 6 times 26 is 156. And then you've got to cancel that beast down. Now, I've no idea. I've no idea what goes into 117 and 156. I would never want to cancel something like that. So let's try this again. We'll start again, but this time we'll cancel before we multiply. So 13 over 6 times 9 over 26. So does anything on the top cancel with anything on the bottom? Well, the 13 and the 6 don't cancel. The 9 and the 26, 3 goes into there, but it doesn't go into 26. So nothing's going to cancel directly top to bottom, so check diagonally. 9 and 6, they're both divisible by 3, so we could divide both of these by 3. 3's into 6 go twice, and 3's into 9 go 3 times. Is there anything else? Well, you need to be a bit careful here, but the 13 and the 26 do actually cancel. It's difficult to spot that one, but 26 is 2 times 13. It's just twice as big. So you could divide both of these by 13, and that would really help. So 13's into 13 go once, and 13's into 26 go twice. Now my numbers are much smaller. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4, which means my final answer is 3/4. So in fact this, if you were to cancel it down, would give you 3/4. Which means if you divided that by 4, yeah, 39. 39 is going to go into both of those things. But you'd never spot that, would you? That 39 goes into 117 and 156. And that's why I always recommend you cancel first. The numbers become smaller here, it's much easier to multiply at the end, and you're not having to cancel these massive fractions. So, just remember, you can cancel anything on the top with anything on the bottom. Do all your cancelling at the start, and you will never have to cancel your final answer. Okay, so that's multiplying fractions in a nutshell. There's one little thing though that can catch people out, so I'll just show you that next. We'll have 2/7 times 3. Just 3. It's a whole number 3. What do you do if you've got a fraction and you're multiplying it by a whole number? Well, there's just a little trick here that you need to remember. If I wanted to write 3 as a fraction, I could write it as 3 over 1. If I divide something by 1, it doesn't really do anything. Yeah, 3 divided by 1 is still 3. So I haven't changed what I've got here, but now it's a fraction and I can do the multiplication. I multiply the tops and I multiply the bottoms. So 2 times 3 gives me 6, 7 times 1 gives me 7. Well, in fact, you may have noticed the bottom number hasn't changed, because if you're timesing something by 1, well, it's not going to do anything to that either. So in fact, we don't really need the divide by 1 in there. If you multiply by a whole number, it's just going to multiply the number on the top. 2 times 3 gives you 6. The bottom number won't change. And it's because of the kind of imaginary over 1 that sits underneath there. So when you see a whole number, just imagine it over 1, multiply the tops, and you don't need to bother doing anything with the bottom. So that's how you deal with multiplying fractions by a whole number. So that's it. If you're watching this video because you want to know how to multiply fractions, now you do, and you can go away and do some practice. But if you really want to understand why that diagonal cancelling thing works, I'll show you that now. But feel free to stop the video and go and do something else now if you're not bothered. So this is how to, or why you're allowed to cancel diagonally. So if we go back to that example before, I think at some point we had 3/4 times 7/9. There was some other cancelling I think that happened. But we could do 3/4 times 7/9 by multiplying the tops and multiplying the bottoms. And I'm going to write it out in a slightly strange way. 3 times 7 would be what you get on the top, and then 4 times 9 would be what you get on the bottom. Now multiplication, I've got 3 times 7 here I'm multiplying, is what we call in maths commutative. All that means is it doesn't matter which way round you multiply, you always get the same answer. So 3 times 7 is exactly the same as 7 times 3. Makes no difference which way round you do it, so I could swap those round if I wanted to. You might be wondering why I want to, but trust me, we're going to need to illustrate the points here. So I've multiplied these things on the top, but the other way round. So I haven't changed anything, still going to get the same answer. Now these two fractions, when we multiply them, sort of squish together into this. What I'm going to do now is unsquish this one and turn it into the two fractions that we would have had we then squished them into this. So that would come about from 7/4 times 3/9. This, you can see now, is exactly the same as this, except that the two numbers on the top have been swapped round. And that's because it doesn't matter which way round you multiply. So the answer to this multiplication is exactly the same as the answer to this multiplication. And now look, the 3 will be, because it's over the 9, will cancel with the 9. Previously the 3/4 wouldn't cancel and the 7/9 wouldn't cancel. You can cancel diagonally because I could just swap the top numbers and then cancel normally. You could remember it as, okay, well whenever I'm multiplying fractions I can swap the top numbers which will allow me to cancel, but in practice it's easier to remember that you can just cancel diagonally. Because the 3/9 here would cancel down to 1/3, actually I could just do it right at the start without all that messing around, cancel that down to 1/3 and then multiply. So just for interest really, that's why you're allowed to cancel diagonally. It's because multiplication is commutative. It doesn't matter which way around you multiply. Alright, so my name's Jonathan Hicks and you've been watching Teach Me Maths.